Awesome. Ryan, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you inviting me out.
Yeah, no worries. So I would love for you to tell our listeners, those who haven't heard of you, because we've got listeners from all around the world, and some of them may not have heard of your brand and your amazing story. So tell us like where you are now with Tru Earth, your brand, what your brand's all about, and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so we launched Tru Earth April of 2019, probably about 11 months before the big pandemic kicked off. But yeah, so when we originally launched the business, we were trying to build a platform or a medium where people could make it easy for people to make choices for selecting consumables that were plastic free. And our first product that we launched was a laundry detergent strip. There's a bunch of people doing it now, but we were the first ones to the market with an actual patented product manufactured in North America. And we grew from nothing, completely bootstrapped, to mid 8 figures in revenue before we eventually did a raise earlier in 2022. And now we're continuing to grow and release new innovative plastic-free products to help people clean their house without a bunch of extra waste and take care of the future for our kids.
Yeah, because you've got 3 kids, is that right?
I do. I have 3 kids. They're actually upstairs running around,
making some noise, making that fun. So within the space of 2.5 years, was it? You got to 8 figures. Is that correct?
No, we were there less than a year, actually.
Less than a year, you got to 8 figures.
That's a lie. We were at an 8-figure run rate within, I think, about 8 months.
About 8 months. So even before the pandemic hit and gave you that nice wind to.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if the pandemic actually helped us or not. I know people were piling up on cleaning supplies, but I think the steep increase in additional advertisers showing up to try to pivot their brand from local businesses to people that delivered and whatnot. I think it offset any real benefit for us, to be honest. But
interesting.
We still grew, but I can't really. I feel like that probably didn't, more or less, just neutralized itself.
Interesting. Yeah. We get a lot of brands coming to us saying we had great performance during the pandemic and now we don't. Please help us. But I guess it depends on the category. There's certain categories that people really were sitting at home buying a lot of, food and drink as well.
Toilet paper.
What's that? Toilet paper. Yeah. Toilet paper at the beginning, but interestingly, some of the categories that did really well for my agency during the peak of the lockdowns was jewelry and fashion, not party going out fashion, but more soft, luxurious sweaters, loungewear, that kind of thing. But jewelry, weirdly, people were just I want something nice to cheer me up. So yeah, but maybe not laundry stuff. Once you've got enough, you might be shopping around a bit more, but that's interesting. So 8 figures within a year. Tell me how you did that, firstly from a marketing perspective, and then I'd also love to hear from a logistical perspective, how you set up the systems behind the scenes to be able to scale that quickly, because it's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, in the beginning, we mainly focused on a couple of major growth levers being Facebook ads, Google ads, some subscription boxes, and a little bit of influencer stuff, primarily micro, or maybe they're considered nano now. I don't even know. But we were primarily focused on, the core growth levers and those core growth levers. And I think that's actually where a lot of 1 to 3 million in revenue range businesses actually, I don't want to say screw up, but they tend to, at least in my experience, chase after too many different things. And strategy is the ability to allocate resources or finite resources to a limited number of tactics. And I think where I see a lot of I don't want to say smaller, but breakout brands struggling is they're trying to do too many things. And whenever you're trying to do too many things, it usually comes at the expense of doing something else well. And anyways, I'm kind of rambling here, but we did focus on 3 or 4 things before kind of going deeper into stuff like retail and Amazon, which we eventually did. But those were kind of the big ones out the gate. We actually did do Amazon about 4 or 5 months in, but that was more of a demand capture thing versus a growth thing.
Yeah. And were you you're a Canadian brand. Were you focused just on your local market, or did you instantly go into the US as well?
No, we went into Canada and the US, but like the one interesting thing about when we launched is the election and stuff was starting to heat up. And
In the US, yeah.
in the US. And so Facebook started rolling out all of these new rules tied to
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
political stuff. And specifically because Donald Trump stated that global warming was made up or wasn't real. Basically anything environmental became a
Political
campaign. So since I'm Canadian, I could only really advertise the environmental side of things inside of Canada. And it worked great where I could do it because environmentalism was hot up until the pandemic when people were more worried about survival than the survival of the planet. But we had to focus on like we initially there was more focus in Canada and we did slowly migrate to doing considerably more in the US.
Yeah.
But we had to approach it differently because, like I said, we couldn't do anything tied to environmentalism. Facebook's totally reduced. They're not as strict as they once were, back then.
Yeah, I remember it was a nightmare, like, because we work with a lot of mission-driven, like, sustainable brands, and we'd get these, like, political disablements of the ad account shut down completely, and these lovely little, environmentally friendly brands going, what? This is crazy. And as we know, it's a real hole to try and dig out of once your ad account gets shut down.
Yeah. I've luckily only ever had like accidental or programmatic ones that were like a glitch. So knock on wood, I haven't had to experience the battle of digging yourself out of that hole, but I've heard it sucks.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be happening as much anymore. I think Facebook, Meta, the company, is much more, conscious of serving their customer base as competition has increased for them from TikTok and their revenues have gone down. I think they're much better at like letting people advertise. But man, it was difficult, especially, pre-pandemic and during that election time and then during the pandemic itself when they were understaffed and things weren't getting reviewed. It was really bad. Awesome. So you focused very much on Facebook and Google. And Facebook and Instagram, obviously, Meta and Google, what we now call Meta. And what were the tactics that were working for you back then? Like, what was the approach to the ads, if you can remember?
Yeah, no, I totally remember. And in the beginning, like, I've been advertising on. I'm never going to call it Meta, but I've been advertising on Facebook for like about a decade now, and until Tru Earth, I never had like a ton of success with video ads. And that was primarily because image ads got such a higher click-through rate. Mm-hmm. So when we launched the brand, like the first ad that we ever created was literally at my old house. I had like an old style washer and dryer with like the top load. And there's my hand holding a strip out to the camera with holding it out, and then there's a package of Tru Earth just sitting on the dryer next to it, and people are wondering what this thing is, right? And that ad, honestly, like it was insane how well it did. Like, and it's funny because it didn't do well like day one. Like I put it out there and I made like 4 different pieces of creative, and the first day was like crickets, and I was like, oh shoot, this is maybe this isn't going to be successful. And then the second day, all of a sudden Facebook found its footing and they started ripping. And I was like, whoa, this like, we were hoping to sell 150 packs in the first month or subscriptions, and we wound up doing more than 1,500. So it was like,
so okay, you just hit a home run straight out of the park. Like, wow.
Yeah. And it was, there wasn't the webpage, like I didn't put it, like I put effort into building it and I wrote the copy and everything like that. But it was, and this has happened to me before. It's like whenever I've noticed that if I spend a whole bunch of time like going over and over and over and editing and cleaning it up and making sure that it's really good, usually I launch and then it's like crickets. And it's the ones where I like write the copy and I'm kind of writing it with like snap decisions. I'm like, not really, I'm just trying to get it done quick and get it out the door. Like it's happened to me a few times. I write that, submit it. I'm like, I'll edit it after if it's not perfect. And I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe how well like
yeah. So that I would put that down to like the 10 years of experience that you have, and then that instinct that's built in. Have you ever read Malcolm Gladwell's book? I think it's I don't know if it's Tipping Point or Outliers, one of it there's, and he talks about experts who have done something for a really long time, and then they can they don't even know why they know something, they just know it. I bet it's that, right? You're like instinctively, and I've had that as well before. I had one of my early ad accounts I worked on. I just slammed out some copy one day, and I just put it up, shut the computer, left the building. And the next day, it was just absolutely, it was going nuts. And we just scaled the business like so significantly just off that one piece of copy that was just, it really resonated. It touched a nerve that people just, they were having arguments in the comments. That's the other thing that's quite good, right? They were having arguments in the comments and they felt some kind of intense lack of something from the copy and they just bought the product. It was a kids' education product. So we were kind of agitating a pain point around what knowledge and words your child knows, which it feels a little evil sometimes, but the product was really amazing. So I always say you have to use your powers for good in this industry because the powers are there for sure, right? To make people buy stuff. So it better be good stuff.
Totally. Yeah. I think I rely quite a bit on intuition, which is a challenging from like a leadership perspective, because I feel like I almost need to, before I can delegate something, I feel like I need to fully understand it, because typically, when I'm ripping through doing something, I don't realize a bunch of the steps that I do in order, or like my thought process or my judgment process to delegate. And it's like, I need to go through it and make sure that I fully understand everything in order to be able to ask for somebody else to do it the way that I want effectively.
Yeah. So in terms of creative then, that was you at home creating the creative yourself on a phone. So like a kind of early style, like UGC type ad, which probably there weren't a lot of them around then. What's your process now for creative? Like, have you got a whole system built out? Like, how's that working?
Yeah, we do a few things. Like we have basically a constant flow of like UGC and like scrappy type material. And then we do like these bigger production videos. I don't think any of them are actually online right now for a few different reasons, but I won't get into exactly why, but we were pretty well known for like our Harmon Brothers style videos, which have had like hundreds of millions of views. And that process is a little bit longer. We work with the producer to come up with like 4 or 5 different ideas, and then the producer works with like a handful of writers. He creates basically the core direct response style script, kind of like the Harmon Brothers style, and then he'll have the comedians come in and like funny it up, and then we kind of go back and forth, make sure the claims are all on point, and go through talent, hire the talent, they film it, edit it, send it over, and But I mean, we're talking productions that are closer to, I don't know, $50,000 plus. And I don't think a lot of businesses can't justify the cost associated with that when the incremental lift of the higher production value doesn't necessarily work out. Like the numbers don't back out, but in the event that you get something that goes viral, then of course it makes sense.
Yeah. And I presume you're producing those for like other channels as well, like YouTube, TikTok, like you're repurposing that content so it goes a little further, sending it out an email, like, yeah.
We're Facebook, YouTube. Sometimes we'll put them on TikTok.
Yeah, it's a bit different. TikTok doesn't really love that stuff.
Yeah, it's not. We've tried it. They've done okay. Like we've written a rap song once. It did okay. But yeah, that's kind of like our standard process. But even at the size we're at, we still use a lot of agencies for creative, even though I have a pretty good grip on how to do it. It just makes sense to have people that are constantly looking at other creatives and seeing what's working for other brands to also contribute to what you're doing. Because I like to use this quote, but like sometimes you're too close to the sun to see the stars. And
I was about to say,
yeah. So, it's nice to have other people who do see the stars to contribute what they've learned from other businesses to your business.
Totally. And also just as, it's a fresh set of ideas. It's a different person. They're just going to have a different idea strike them. And if they're in the idea generation business for a living and that's what they kind of do day after day, then you'd hope they'd be pretty good at it. At what point did you start doing the more high production value type of advertising, and what drove that decision? And then kind of what data did you see to prove that it was worth investing in?
So originally, actually, I took the Harmon Brothers course, and this was like before COVID, where still kind of at that scrappy phase where, the founders did a lot of it. And I'd actually produced a video in like a similar style, but without the jokes, without the humor, but just like using their framework. And it worked pretty well. And the person that did the video for me, or have done probably, done like 8 of them, that's done the videos for us. I actually met them inside of the Harmon Brothers group, and he had done a video for Russell Brunson. And I was just like, how much do you charge for this? And the time he gave me a quote, and I'm like, well, I think that's probably worth giving a shot. And then COVID hit, so it delayed it, and we wound up getting our first one out September of 2020, I guess.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it went like off the rails viral right away. It was being like talked about in like direct response groups everywhere. It was all over Facebook. It was called 10 Things You Should Never Mix with Water. You won't be able to find it unless you're
I'll share the link.
You won't be able to find it.
We won't be able to find it.
It's not online right now. Like I said, we had some things that happened that we took them down, but it like I don't even remember. Like it was like 1 million views within a couple of hours of publishing, and the CPAs were incredibly cheap. So like we pretty much immediately went and booked another one, which we used the same actress in the background, and then we had introduced like her husband kind of thing. And the second one was like called Real Men Do Laundry, and it was kind of a play off of the Gillette or the Old Spice ads back in the day.
I love those.
And again, off the rails, viral, like insane. This was like in January of 2021, and it like just nothing like any of the other stuff we'd ever produced. And then we had one more that went like super crazy viral in May of that year as well, and it was like a game show version with 2 of the same characters. And like we haven't had quite that level of success with the other ones after that, but those 3, which were like 3 of the first 4, I want to say, that we did, were absolutely bananas. And the one thing that I would suggest, like, so we actually launched another one in there with this Bigfoot character, which was like, it did really bad. And we launched that one like 3 weeks after the Real Men Do Laundry. And the one piece of advice that I would give, that I kind of learned the expensive way, because just the mask for this video was like $3,000, is that don't go spending a whole bunch of money on a piece of creative until you validated that you can sell that product like at a reasonable CPA with, your regular scrappy ads. You're not going to get like a 300% lift in conversion when you do something high production. So
the stakes are higher too, right? The investment is higher if you fail.
Yeah. And then people hated Sasquatch that we had in the video. Like, there's somebody that wrote in saying like, oh my God, he looks like he's going to die. Like, you should I'll volunteer my time to write a script for you and film it and blah, 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 because I can't believe that you would have this character that looks like he's 1 foot in the grave. Like, I'm like, oh my God. But yeah.
Wow. And in this process, so this was still fairly early days of your business. Like, are you still kind of creative director on these? Are you co-creating with this filmmaker, or are they kind of coming to you with the ideas and you're just signing it off and tweaking it a little bit?
Yeah. So the first one was 100% their idea. And then the second one, I think we were kind of like noodling around ideas. The Sasquatch idea was 100% my stupid idea. I'll admit it. And then the game show one was actually their idea as well. But basically we bounce around ideas. We hop on the phone and like see what we come up with. But even still, I'm still participating in some of those conversations, but not everything. Just like kind of like the bigger higher end stuff. I'll still contribute or if I come up with what I think is a cool idea, then you'll
throw it in there.
Yeah.
And tell me, just switching tack a little bit, so in those early days, like that ad you put up, you put it up yourself, like you had been running ads for 10 years. So you were, as the founder, doing the media buying in-house. At what point did you either hire in-house or get an agency? I always think it's really interesting to hear how different brands kind of decide the in-house versus external route.
Yeah, so I mean, I ran the Facebook ads and the Google ads initially, and then we hired another company to do our Google ads probably like 3 or 4 months in, but with the big goal of adding like layering in YouTube, which actually was pretty successful for us in the beginning. I continue to run the Facebook ads and Snapchat and all the other stuff until we brought on our media buyer that's in house now in I think October of 2021. And he took over. It's actually crazy because he lives like 2 minutes from our office, which, that doesn't happen with media buyers very often. But he took over then, and he took over Google. He basically took over everything. So he's been great. And I still kind of dig around the account and work with him on strategies and stuff like that. But he's pretty much taken the ball and run, which I really do enjoy media buying. It's like, it's a very like dopamine rich diet of data and feedback loop of results, but it's also nice to, I feel like my life has less highs and lows than it did when I was always in there,
Yeah, the emotional attachment to your ROAS can be challenging at times. Yeah, I remember, especially in my early days of freelancing, like that brand I mentioned about where I got the great copy, like there would be, so many highs and lows, and I would feel so like low when it was low, and it's tough. Cool. So you've got a media buyer in house, and he's been working with you for a while. Like, and does he get involved in the creative side, or is that a different team? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have, like I said, we have a couple different agencies that produce content for us, and like agencies kind of have, they understand the guardrails of the claims and stuff that they're allowed to make, but he does work with them. And like, if we're having like a sales event, or we have new products coming up, or we have like a couple ideas, well, he'll coordinate with them to produce that. So yeah, he's definitely pretty hands-on.
Yeah. And how are you guys dealing with now? You mentioned you had a first mover advantage when you started, but now there are competitors. Like, how has that impacted your marketing strategy? How are you defending your space?
I mean, everybody just pretty much copies most of the stuff that we do. So, I mean, I don't really care that much about what they're doing, quite frankly. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's ignorant, but like, I pay attention to some extent, but for the most part, like I'd rather focus on what we're doing and being the best that we can be and innovating new products. And, there's always going to be copycats, and like, hey, you know what? It's flattering. There's like 20 brands that have copied all of my copywriting, all of my hooks. Like, it's, I don't know. It used to bother me in the beginning. Like, I was like so irritated. Like, I'd even see our packaging on a few of these brands. Like, they would buy our stuff, sneak it underneath their one Alibaba drop shipped package that they ordered, and they like stuff like that. And it would drive me nuts. I would stay up at night, like being angry. And then I'm like, whatever, you know what? It's always going to happen. If you're successful with something, there's going to be people copying you. I'm friends with other people like in cell phone, like in environmentally friendly cell phone cases with like Pila case, my buddy Matt. And he's like, he told me in the early days when we were starting that like that industry is so cutthroat. And I think at the end of the day, I think the truth is that every industry's cutthroat. If you're doing something well, there's somebody else that wants it. They're going to come after you. They're going to copy you. They are going to do what they already know is working. And say la vie, build your moat, build a community, figure out things that you can do to separate yourself from the other guys. And, we've got patents. We're manufactured in North America. Everybody else is manufactured in China. Nothing wrong with China, but it's just people like to support.
Yeah. And the shipping, is less far, right? So that's got to have an impact on the environment.
Totally.
Yeah. Cool. So what kind of things are you doing like on the community building side, therefore, to like build loyalty, retention, build your moat, as it were?
Yeah, we've done a bunch of different stuff. Like, we've had like community challenges where we built like Facebook groups. We've done a ton of stuff locally with the community. Like, we support and donate so much product to like, whether it's like the food banks or to like new mothers in Ghana or nurses, or like, I don't even know the exact number, but we've donated millions of dollars in laundry detergent to people around like North America. And like, I was dropping my daughter off at school one day. This is just to give you an example. And there's a guy and he came up to me and he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "I just wanted to thank you for that like donation you made to our church's food hampers." And I'm like, my head, I'm like, I might have no idea what he's talking about. We donate lots, right? And it's not that I'm not trying to be involved in everything, but, and he's like, "There's a lady that like she was going through a tough time and she had to choose between washing her kids' clothes before sending her to school, washing her own clothes before going to a job interview, and choosing to be able to feed the family." And he's like, "I just want to thank you," because he's like, because it's something you don't realize how important being able to wash your clothes is to somebody who's going through a difficult phase. And like, food banks don't usually carry laundry detergent because of these big, huge jugs and they have limited space. So these people have to like, it's just not something, it's like a luxury and everybody takes it for granted. And he's like, "Because of you, this woman was able to go and have a job interview, get a job, and was able to send her kid to school without having to wear dirty clothes." And like, we were both sitting there and I'm like trying not to tear up while he's saying this, and he's tearing up and I'm tearing up, and this guy's like 6'5" and he's like a reverend. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much impact you could have. And it might not, your moat might not be like a community in the traditional internet sense. It might be how you're contributing to the communities around the world. And when you can make impact to people who are in a position to not be able to afford to use your product, when they get back on their feet, who they're gonna obviously, like, they're gonna talk about it, and they're probably gonna choose what they've been using, right? So I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can build a moat, and we've chosen to do like contributing, giving back, and making sure that people who can't afford our product or can't afford laundry detergent as a whole are taken care of. That's
awesome. I think you mentioned you've recently gone for investment. Is that right?
Yeah, last April we closed our Series A.
Awesome, congrats.
Thank you.
How does that process work when you're a mission-driven brand? Like, finding the right investors that care about your mission, like making sure that you don't lose sight of it.
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, we worked with KPMG, which is like, massive global accounting firm or whatever. And we kind of gave them this is kind of like our hygiene factors for who we're willing to play with. Mm-hmm. And, ethically, morally, where we want them to stand and where they want to prioritize what we're doing. And in the end, we wound up going with a company, or a venture capital firm out of Vancouver here called Renewal Fund, which
cool.
They organize the capital, and they've worked with like Seventh Gen and a number of other kind of environmentally focused brands. So we got really lucky that we found a group that has sustainability as one of their top priorities, and just want to be in a good fit.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how does it feel not being bootstrapped anymore?
I don't have a lot of feelings about anything anymore. I think I burned them all out with Facebook ads and all that dope. It's funny. I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of also not. Like, for me, I think I actually feel better just being at peace. Like, before, I love chasing the dopamine of making sales and doing better and launches and all that stuff. And just recently we launched our dishwasher detergent, I think like 2 weeks ago. And I went into that day feeling like just really neutral. And the midway through the day, when I started seeing the sales numbers, I started getting like that feeling again. But at the end of the day, I wasn't like hyper. I wasn't like bouncing off the walls. I didn't have like that dopamine deficit feeling that you have after you know, Black Friday or a big sale. I just felt like the first time I felt like mentally stable and peaceful about the whole thing. And I think in the past that probably would have bothered me that I wasn't like high off the sale. And this time I was like, you know what? It feels good to just be like, to not have fluctuating emotions and feelings.
Less of a roller coaster.
Yeah. And like, I think Naval Raktavan, I think that's how you say his name, said it, that like happiness isn't about like feeling elated and excited. Happiness is like, really, it's about like being at peace so that you're not like looking for something else to make you happy, you know? And like, I would say that the biggest thing for me that came out of all this is not that I wasn't at peace before, but I feel like I'm just a little bit more at peace inside my head than I've been in the last decade.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. Like sometimes you do hear of people like losing, they just kind of lose their mojo completely when a big change like this happens in their business, or they reach that success that they supposedly were aiming towards. But that's awesome. So what's next? More products? Global domination? What's the plan?
Yeah, you know, just like one foot in front of the lap. Try to have fun along the way, and get more products. Help eliminate more plastic wrapped consumer goods, and provide effective solutions for people who want to basically be a medium to help people make decisions to live a cleaner, healthier life for the planet and the future generations ahead of us. But yeah, just, you know, keep on moving, keep on growing, and try not to be too stressed out.
Yeah, it's important. So, and then final question from me is, what do you see on the horizon for marketing? It's been a bit of a rough year. I mean, it's been a bit rough since iOS 14. I don't know if it's been like that for you, but generally it's been tougher trading, I think, on those platforms. What do you think is going to happen next? And what do you think is going to work or be more difficult?
Yeah, I mean, I think with all the AI stuff that's coming out right now, I think that there's like a lot of big shifts on the horizon. I think that from an organic perspective, I think that you're going to see a lot more platforms move away from like a social graph where it's based on how many people are following you, and move more towards like a content graph like TikTok and YouTube Shorts are using, where they analyze how people react to new content when it's published and open up more exposure based on how it's consumed, which I think is valuable for people who are like, or, you know, for brands who don't have this massive reach. So it really levels the playing field in terms of, you know, how much money you spend or how much time you spent growing an audience, and opens up an opportunity for people to just create really great content. But I guess the people that have a leg up there are the people that know how to make great content. So I think that's the like short term. I don't know where things go, like, you know, in a year or two, like with the AI stuff. I'm just like, in my head, I'm thinking like, is like blogs, are blogs dead? Like if AI can just write any information at any given time, is there any value even in somebody's opinion? Like, and how do you tell whether it's written by a computer or it's written by a person? Do you care?
Yeah, I guess for me, I think about this like it becomes more about who's saying the thing, like whether you trust the person's opinion. So like I would read a blog written by someone that I trust in my industry, because even if they had used AI, they would have like, you know, curated it, tailored it so that it was like valuable content. But I think the value of like random blogs on the internet from publishers that you've never heard of, that really goes away pretty fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, how do you, like, as an, like, whatever, I'm not an influencer, but like as an influencer, like, or somebody that wants to be a content creator or aspiring influencer, like the initial phases of building an audience are going to be like almost impossible, because like, how do you separate yourself from everything else that's going on? Like, how do you, you know, if everything's being mass produced by machines, how do you build that initial audience when there's, you know, everything's the same? I don't know.
Oh, it's definitely going to be so interesting these next few years for sure. I mean, the SEO industry must be, the content-driven SEO and the content shops must just be freaking out right now. Either that or they're deep diving into how they can harness the technology.
Yeah.
But yeah. How are you using ChatGPT in your business?
I use it like, so we're not like using it a ton on Tru Earth side. Like I'll use it for sometimes to like think up ideas or do a little bit of like research on like emotional behaviors and stuff like that. But I'm using it a lot personally for things like I'll take like 10 things that are similar. If I'm trying to think of something to write about or think about, like, I'm using it as a brainstorming tool, basically. Yeah. So I'll take like 10 things, I'll post it in there and say, give me 20 things that are like these 10 things. Mm-hmm. And then I review all the output from it. I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. And I've played with it a little bit for like image manipulation. Like I've got a couple of superhero images of myself where I'm like 10 times better looking than in real life.
And not possible.
No, I mean, maybe 1.2. No, but I think like I'm really excited about video. Like I know people are paranoid about putting their personal assets out there, but like tools like Descript that you can teach your voice and then have it output your like for podcasting is amazing. But like I really want to make like a deep fake version of myself, like a video that I can go and then like program to say whatever I want so that I don't have to say it,
Yeah, you don't have to set up the lighting and like do your hair and
Yeah, that's the worst part about it. Like honestly, like to be on video, like if I had to shoot a video, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta shave today. I should probably blow dry my hair.
Try being a woman, we've got to put makeup on and
it gave me like a whole new perspective. Like I complain about brushing my hair like one day a week. I can't imagine having to deal with like real hair and makeup. Yeah. Like,
the struggle is real, I'm telling you. And I'm not even, I don't put any near the effort that a lot of people do. So awesome. Well, it's been so great chatting to you. Where can people follow you, follow your journey, buy your products?
Yeah.
I'll link.
Yeah. So you can, if you want to check out Tru Earth, you can go to www.tru.earth. There's no .com.
Yeah.
And if you want to follow me, I'm pretty active on Twitter. My Twitter handle is RYE Mackenzie, MCKENZIE. And yeah, I post YouTube videos periodically too. I'm sure if you Google my name on there or YouTube my name, you'll probably find it.
Awesome. Yeah, we will link to all of those in the show notes so our listeners can follow you and find out more of your great time. You definitely share lots of great content on Twitter that I follow myself. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for contributing back to the marketing community. It's appreciated.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for coming along. Thanks so much for joining us here on the E-commerce Impact Podcast. If I can ask you one favor, can you please make sure you subscribe? And if you can, leave us a review. It helps us have a much bigger impact with what we're trying to do here at the E-commerce Impact Podcast. Now, if you're ready to take your e-com store to the next level, then go to www.ecommerceimpactpodcast.com and click on the button to book a strategy call with me or my team. We offer a free order of your advertising and a custom growth plan, so you really have nothing to lose by getting in touch and jumping on a call with us. See you soon, and watch out for the next episode in 2 weeks' time.